Put on your helmets and buckle your chin straps for the wildest podcast held in the Steel City. Dubs and Chicken Hawk will give you a taste of the past in fried jumbo.
So, would it be all right, Bob, to talk a little bit about some of the mechanics and things of not painting, but of the work that you do with your artwork?
Absolutely.
Like, we'd want to know about your creative process. Like, how do you, like, from the inception of an idea to the finished product, what's your process like?
Sure. Well, first I have like hundreds of ideas kind of going on all the time there. And when I taught, I had some sayings. One of my sayings was the word fail at it or whatever. So I'd always say art attack. What that meant is you have an idea, do it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my process. I have a lot of ideas, and it's almost like having a smorgasbord of food. There's a lot of things you could pick. Well, pick something. Mm-hmm. So I just have one of the ideas and I just go ahead and do it. And I sketch it in pencil first. Well, I don't know if you want me to show.
Yeah, can you show like how what a sketch might
Sure.
look like? Yeah.
Sure.
So that camera over there is watching you, so you can maybe show it there. Yeah.
So I'm
That's Myron there.
working on Myron Cope, and so I sketch it in pencil first, real light, and then what I do is usually draw the face first. A lot of what I do has people in them, because people's faces are the most difficult thing to do, and that's what makes it kind of fun to do. So I do the face first, starting with the eyes, and then I just kind of work my way out from there. And I use watercolor paints then to do the color.
Okay.
And this past...
Now, there, okay. So let's say you're doing this, right? Mm-hmm. And you feel like, hey, I made a mistake or something. Do you scrap the whole thing and start over, or do you just say, okay, maybe I'll just, you can erase a little bit here and like, what's your revision process like?
With the pencil sketch, I can erase and kind of redo that. Uh-huh. But once I go with the ink, you can't. It's just ink.
It's done.
It's just lines and dots. So, but I've done it so much that the drawings kind of draw themselves a little bit. Like with my pen, it's almost like the line knows where to go. Wow. If that makes sense.
It makes sense, but I can't believe it.
And if I if I try to concentrate hard, it hurts the process. Like
it slows it down or just ruins it.
It kind of slows it down. Yeah, I don't do as well. So I have to. So
really, you have to let go to go forward.
Right. Yeah. I just have to kind of be relaxed and
that is so wonderful.
So I do the face first, and then go from there. And years ago, I did caricatures.
Okay,
the little funny pictures.
Yeah.
And I used to my wrestlers. I used to do a caricature of them for the banquet at the end of the year. And then, like at our church, I would do a lot of kids for events. And I realized I'm kind of have a knack for doing a caricature. I could do it in 6-7 minutes. I could, do a whole caricature, like with the body and all that. And then my wife was a teacher, but she quit to be a stay-at-home mom, and we needed more money because teachers weren't making a whole lot of money. Yeah. So I started doing caricatures at wrestling tournaments. So I did. Over 10 years, I did 10,000 caricatures.
Holy moly.
Faces.
That's amazing.
And what that did is that repetition taught me how to draw faces. If that made sense.
I mean, you got them pegged. Like Myron there is pegged.
Well, you're trying to capture the soul of the person in the drawing,
Yeah, his eyes carried a lot of energy. There's Troy. Yeah.
A drawing I recently did of Troy with watercolor and pen.
Gee, Merry Christmas. Is that beautiful?
And again, it's watercolor, paint, and then just thousands of little lines with pen. Mm-hmm. But I did his face first.
And then you worked the helmet and all that on there.
Right, work from there.
That's unbelievable.
And let's see.
Belongs to a museum.
Here's a couple more recent ones. I did the Pittsburgh Pirates with their championship rings. And I mean, they're not doing so well now, but they have done real well back at certain
Is
periods.
this a specific lineup, or is it just like different players?
Just different players.
Different time.
Yeah, just different players over different eras.
Who's in the middle? That's Clemente, right?
Clemente.
There's Clemente.
Right here. Yep.
This is this Stargell there?
That's Stargell.
And that's Parker, and that's Candelaria.
Right.
And is that Manny Sanguine?
Manny Sanguine.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Yeah,
yeah,
that's interesting. Is this like Trainer?
That's by Trainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one of these got to be Kiner, probably.
Yeah, and I forget now which one.
Yeah.
Which one? Who's who on that? Yeah, the Kiner.
Yeah.
And,
Boy, that's special there, huh? Wow.
but it's just thousands of little lines with little fine Sharpie. Is what it is.
Unbelievable.
You know.
And that's what creates like shadowing. And
Right.
things, right?
And you know what? Alex Friendy, the art teacher at Norwin, liked doing etching.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulled me aside and taught me how to cross hatch.
Yeah, I
Which
see.
is called
That's
cross
what that
hatching.
looks like to me. Yeah, cross.
So that goes back to him.
Yeah, we had
back in
Al
high school.
when I was in school. He was the art teacher.
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Friendy.
Or
Yeah.
here is the Penguins. Same thing.
Holy
They
smokes,
have
yeah.
5 championships.
You
And
got these people perfect.
trying to you
That's the flower. He just
Right.
He's retiring this year.
Right.
Yeah.
but you try to capture like their personality in it, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that is their eye. I mean, the 10,000 caricatures I did, I never saw the same eye twice. Everybody, even looking at, if I look at you two, your eyes
yeah.
are so different. you know?
Yeah.
So the eyes are the key to
To the person.
right to the person.
And it tells you you can almost see I can see their personalities.
Sure.
Because I kind of knew these players.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not personally, but just their persona,
And
How about this Allman Brothers?
last
Holy
week
smokes.
at a festival in Ocean City, I drew that. So same thing. I did the faces first. I sketched it all, and then did the faces, and it's just lines and little dots.
What is that, Leonard Skinner?
No, it's Allman Brothers.
Allman Brothers Band.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Allman
These guys,
Brothers Band.
great
Yeah.
blues-based
It's an
band.
old guy band.
It's our band. Yeah. They're fantastic
Yeah.
band.
But I draw at the shows because, first of all, I love to draw, and I'm there for 12 hours a day, so why not draw?
Yeah.
But then it also kind of gives credibility to my artwork, because people see the artwork and they're like, "Oh, you drew you actually drew them."
Yeah, so he's in this picture like a sort of like a tent setup,
10 by 10.
10 by 10.
Yeah.
Right.
10. And he's got all his artwork hanging behind him. And then he's sitting at an artist table drawing that during the time that he's there.
Yeah.
So they get to actually see him do his work and then
Right.
purchase some of his work if they're interested.
Right.
That is so fantastic. I wouldn't come. I'd be buying everything in there.
Well, what some fun things about it is you run into a lot of people who like to draw, or
Yeah.
maybe even kids that like to draw,
That'd be neat.
and they want to. So I get to still sort of teach, which is really fun. I get to explain what I'm doing. That's pretty fun. But then another thing is people will comment on my talent. They'll say, "Oh, I wish I had talent," but we know everybody has talent.
Right.
So then that opens up the door. I say, well, this is just what I do. What do you do?
Right.
And then just like you're interviewing me, I interview people, and they tell me amazing things what they do. So I get to kind of sit there and hear all these kind of neat stories of amazing people.
Yeah, that's to be honest with you, that's why we're doing this show. Is it isn't necessarily the commercial success or if they're famous or not. It's just I don't care who you are. Everybody has a very interesting life.
Sure.
It don't matter
You're
if
right.
they're willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
Some folks are guarded and don't want to share things, or they don't want to. Maybe there's too much pain in their past for them to get through some things.
Sure.
But if people are open, which I find most are, if
Yeah.
you ask the right questions,
Yeah.
you learn some of the most beautiful gifts that are given to you through that communication that people just walk by every day.
Yeah.
Like I'm at the gym, I go to Planet Fitness and people call me the mayor there.
Oh, God.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I talk to so many people.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
probably talk more than I do the exercises.
Sure.
But truly, you find something very interesting. You get a gift from every single person every single day, regardless of age.
Agree with you 100%. That's what I get at these shows.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yep.
And when I was in the insurance business, I hated insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Be honest with you.
Because you're trying to get them to buy insurance.
Yeah, like I didn't care about homeowners or car insurance.
Right.
I liked the fact that it protected them if something bad happened.
Sure.
So I love the philanthropic part of that, where if they had a terrible loss, they would have money to offset the loss.
Sure.
But what I enjoyed was sitting down and talking to the people and saying, what are your goals? What are your dreams? What are you trying to accomplish with your kids? You trying to get them through college? You're going to try to retire at a certain age.
Sure.
What are the resources you're going to need to have to do that? And then I'd put a plan together for them and say, well, if you really want to accomplish those things, it's going to take X amount of money going into your 401k or X amount of money going into your life insurance, or if you're lucky enough to have a pension through a school program or a government program or something like that, that made things a lot easier. But it was attaching to their goals and dreams. And they would tell you everything that they needed to have happen in their lives for that to occur. And you felt like you were like a coach or a teacher.
Sure.
Because you were just providing, you tell me what your path is going to be, and I'll tell you how you can do it from a financial means.
Facilitating it.
I'll facilitate it for you.
Yeah.
I know you might only have $200 a month to work with. We'll try to figure out the best way to get you where you want to be for that. And then maybe next year we go to 250 or 300. You just try to just inch people along.
Sure.
In life. Sure. That's what I liked about it, is the humanity side of it.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's same thing with what we're doing here is I am really interested in hearing about people's lives.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Because
no doubt.
that's where the beauty lies.
Sure.
And what really is odd is people sort of get mad at each other at red lights and things. People are impatient and honking horns and things.
Right. Right.
And if they just would slow down enough to just appreciate,
I agree. Yeah.
Little things.
Yeah.
It would be a better world. That's all.
At these shows, I come home with stories every show to my family, and my brain has forgotten most of them. My wife says I should write them down. But I could. This past week there were multiple stories, but there was a man, probably your age, came in and was looking around, and he had one arm. Mm-hmm. So I said to him, "Do you mind me asking what happened to your arm?" And he said, "I was born without it."
Oh,
really? And he said, "Yeah, but I played sports and I this and I that." He talked about, he said, "I've pretty much led a normal life, And I said, "Wow, you're a really strong person to have risen above all that." And we talked about that. And he said, "Yeah, I had to, learn how to do it anyway." And then say, "Wow, you're inspiring."
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
what people do every single day that is unique.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that could have just been it for him. He could have recoiled and said every reason why he couldn't play something or do something. And he just made a decision that that's not going to be the way it's going to be.
Or I'll see a mom at a show with a disabled child in a wheelchair, and she's bringing him to the show and talking to him and saying, look at the pictures and, and all that. And I tell them, I say, well, you're a hero. Because what they had to go through that morning to get that child dressed and ready and there, and here they are showing them a good day at the festival. And I think, my goodness, they're the heroes.
Yeah, everyday heroes.
Yeah,
they're all over the place.
Yeah,
and I often think of that too. We were at the Elks last year for Elk Fest. They do like a music thing, where maybe 3 or 4 local bands get together and volunteer and just play music. It's the wind down the summer or whatever.
Okay.
And there was a young mom there with a really disabled child in a wheelchair, and it just it broke me up. But then we got to talking, my brother-in-law and I got to talking to her and her husband, and they said what a pure joy,
wow,
and honor it is for them to care for this child.
Wow.
You know, and it changes your thought process.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and you say, wow. I mean, there are just superheroes. They don't have capes, but they should.
You're right. Yeah.
You know, and they're everywhere. And people just like, sometimes we just don't slow down enough to take it in.
Sure. Yep.
You know, because if you take it in, what you give back out to humanity will be far more positive.
Sure.
You know?
And teaching was like that, in that these are just high school kids, but you knew they have talents and abilities, and there's some superheroes in there.
Yeah.
They're going to grow up to be these amazing people. You know, and you're witnessing, seeing them in high school, if that makes sense.
It's basically pure magic every day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, just what frame of mind you're going to take while you're seeing it is important. You know, because again, some folks that aren't as in touch with their own thoughts and feelings might not see what you're seeing.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just a skill that you have.
Well, not sometimes the students in school that had behavior problems. Well, I'll give you an example. Give you a story. There was a fella. He was expelled in school a lot, and anytime a teacher would correct him, he would just blow up. Especially if a male teacher, you know, would yell at him. This boy would just, you know, blow up. And so I pulled him aside and said, you know, hey, let's talk here. And I you know, I was getting along with him. I saw, well, don't yell at the kid. Yeah. Because that doesn't go well.
Yeah, that's not going to be the answer.
You know, pulled him aside and said, let's talk a little bit. Do you have a mom and dad? And he said, no, my grandmother raises me. And where's your dad? He said, I hope I find him along the side of the road somewhere. You know? I said, what? Why? And he said, well, he used to beat me and my sister with a frying pan.
Oh, my God.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, let me ask you this. Like, if I noticed if a man yells at you, you get pretty upset, you know?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, because it's him again.
Yeah, you're picturing that beating coming.
And I said, I'm sorry that was your life. That's really not fair. I'm so sorry. You know, I said, no, we can't let you do whatever you want. Like, you can't
do that.
You know, you can't misbehave. But like for me, I'm going to work with you. You know, so you know, if I correct you, I'm not going to yell at you. Blah blah blah. You know, but anyway, I sort of got along with them. I got along with them pretty well. But I think, you know, you had to take a second and try to find out about him. Now, I don't know whatever happened to him. I could tell you more stories that were like that.
Yeah, break your heart. It's just you never know what people are carrying, huh?
Yeah.
Just don't know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, kids sometimes, you know, adults might get a little more leeway. If someone's really acting out, you know, they're 30 years old at work or something, someone's going to say, hey, what's going on? You know?
Right.
But kids, sometimes you just say, well, it's this, or it's puberty, or their girlfriend, or you trivialize it a little bit.
Yep.
But a lot of times it should not be trivialized because it's serious things.
Yeah, sure.
Like being beat with a frying pan, for goodness sakes. That's, but I'm sure you helped that young man.
Well, not a credit to me, except for just trying to,
listening.
Try to listen a little bit, you know, is all. And then it was the last day of school for that boy. I yelled at him, you know, I forget the circumstances, but I purposely kind of yelled at him, and he turned and looked at me like, you know, he wasn't quite sure what to do. And then I said, hey, I want to say I was so glad that you're in my class, you know. And he realized I was just playing,
trying to get his attention.
I was just doing a little thing there, you know. But anyway, I told him how glad I was. He was, you know, makes you wonder whatever happened to him. Yeah. Right now, I don't know.
Yeah, there couldn't ever be a bigger compliment that you'd get as a kid, as a teacher saying, I was thankful to have you in my class.
Well, yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
You know, that's an easy thing to say to somebody.
Yeah.
And it could carry them for years.
Sure. Yeah.
You know.
Yep, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to kind of back up a second too. Is you see all these coming to fruition here? Did you ever get the one and you just say, I don't like that one, or is it just always kind of come out to be the way you want it to be?
Well, in my art room, painted on the wall was the word, amongst other murals, was the word gooder. So that was what we were trying to do. We're just all trying to get gooder.
Okay.
So that's all I'm trying to do is get gooder.
Gooder.
So, years ago, I wasn't as gooder. And so, some of the pictures I had to scrap.
Okay.
But mostly I try to work my way through whatever I'm doing and finish it anyway, primarily.
Yeah, because you can learn along the way.
Right.
Right.
Right. You can,
no matter what, you can pick something up that says, okay, next time I do something like this, I do this instead of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had to teach kids kind of, I think when I talked more about the psychology of how to work than I did even the techniques, because like I used to tell them, you'll get bored when you start a drawing. It's exciting, and then when you settle into it, it gets real boring, and then students would want to start over. But I taught them how you keep working through that boredom, and then usually at the end of it, it's exciting again. So I go through that at every drawing that I do. So
that's really interesting.
The key is how to be in the middle of it when you're bored, but do it with excellence anyway.
Yeah.
Because, your tendency is, I'm bored, I'll just do it any old way.
So what do you tell them to do? Like just dig in and try to focus, or if you're bored, take a step away for a little bit and come back and give it an honest.
More just work through the boredom. Just keep doing it good.
Just keep plugging.
Right.
And just sticking with it, and know that at the end of this, something's going to be there that you like.
Right. Which is that's pretty much everything in life.
Pretty much.
Any job anybody has in the middle of it, you're going to be bored, and you just kind of keep on working hard through it.
It's the dash.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like on your gravestone, you get a dash.
Yeah.
That dash, you got to fight through that dash because it just doesn't. It could be nothing, or it could be as exciting as you want it to be. Yeah. You control it.
Sure. Yeah.
And not quitting is the best way to try to control things, I think.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll get sick somewhere along the way.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was just thinking about it. And then this Allman Brothers one you did, how many hours would that take you?
Well, it probably took me 50 hours total by the time I sketch it, and then you can kind of see it's just lines, and
it's beautiful.
But the thing is, say when I'm doing the face, I'm trying so hard on it.
Yeah.
But now when I come down and I'm doing the knee, I have to try to do it just as well.
Okay, I got a real technical problem here.
Okay.
Well, how do you know? Okay, so is this Betts, I guess, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you got him here, and you drew his face in. How do you know you had enough room for his legs and upper torso and stuff?
Yeah,
that just through experience.
Through experience.
Okay.
Yeah, just sketching experience.
So that it's the body is going to be X amount, and
right.
So you can kind of frame this thing up in your mind. If somebody's standing, I need X amount of this frame to work with, and things like that.
You have a sense. You kind of have a sense of where the border is. Okay. And I would tell my students it's like a hockey goalie. You'll notice they'll take the stick and hit the two corners of the net.
Yeah.
When they're getting ready.
Yeah, they're giving their space.
And what they're doing is just connecting where the edges are. So when you're drawing, you kind of know where the edges are.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. Oh yeah. So your spatial sort of presence there.
Right. So when you're sketching it, you have to have a spatial presence of everything. Then once it's sketched and you're detailing, now you can go into the little detail, and you don't have to worry.
Okay.
You
So that's what I always thought about in art. I'm like, okay, how I make sure the hand is going to be the right size relative to the forearm, and all those things. But that's through, I'm sure, experience and,
right,
and things like that.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. So I do want to ask you a couple more things about some of the, like your favorite works. Do you have anything that, I know you did some work with Jim O'Brien for his books, and
Sure.
you've done these wrestling covers, and you've done a lot of different works, and
Right.
brochures and things like that. This is for Big 33 football, and this is for
State
PIA State Wrestling Championships, things like that. So you've done a lot of project work, and you've done a lot of, big time stuff with books and things like that, because I know
Right.
Jim O'Brien sells a lot of books. What would be your favorite, do you think? Or do you have any of these? Is anything your favorite, I guess I'm asking you?
Well, yeah, I didn't bring any pictures here of it, but my favorite is drawing my grandchildren, believe it or not.
Oh,
I
wow.
have 5 grandchildren, and I draw them all at least once a year. I do a big, major drawing of each one, and they don't care at all.
Yeah.
But they just want to play. But I figure
So what are their age ranges?
they go from 14 down to not even 1 yet.
Oh, so you got a whole broad
Right.
spectrum of
But
opportunity.
My motive is, I'm 70 years old, so my motive is when they grow up, likely I won't be around, and they'll have all the drawings that I did of them.
What a gift.
So I draw them all at least once a year. So that's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, that's going to be
of everything,
boy, what a legacy that'll be.
And a couple of them like to draw, and they draw with me.
Yeah.
So
So you see future
a couple of them.
future
actually are
Bobs in there.
Yeah.
And you said your daughter, what was her name again?
Amy Fisher.
Amy Fisher. So she's a real good artist.
She's
too, huh?
a children's book illustrator, and
Yeah.
she's outstanding.
Yeah, we may have to have her on here, show some of her stuff sometime. Yeah.
Her husband is a school counselor.
Great.
It's amazing what work he does. Wow. So
And where does he do the school counseling?
in the Lancaster area.
Oh, nice.
They
So in the
live
middle
up
of the state there. Yeah.
Right in the middle of the state, yeah. So I enjoyed talking to him about, what all he does.
How he changes the lives
Yeah,
of
how he
kids.
changes, yeah. Walks into the chaos of kids' lives,
Gives them some direction and hope,
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
I tell you what, I could go for 4 hours
Yeah.
here.
Well,
You may have to come back, but we'll see where we're at. But
sure.
we'll definitely have 2 shows out of it. But we just, honestly wanted to thank you for your time and
Thank you. That's an honor.
consideration.
Yep.
Your artwork's special. Do you have any new shows coming up that we could talk about for people to stop by?
Yeah, I'll be in this area. I'll be at Three Rivers Art Festival.
Okay, that's coming up in
Early
June, right?
Yeah, that's a real big one.
That's a nice one. Yeah.
And I do like a 5-state area, so I'll be in Harrisburg Art Festival, but Three Rivers, that's a great.
That's got to be a big one for you.
Yeah, that's a good one
Because so many Steeler fans and sports.
And Twin Lake Festival.
That's a great one.
I do that one.
We go to that one every year.
Yeah, I'm always there. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll stop by and see
Ligonier Days.
Yeah.
We'll
We'll have to go up and
Yeah.
catch up with
Yeah,
Bob here and do this.
Thank you for coming. I really enjoyed having you on. I feel like I learned a lot and just had a wonderful time. Thank you.
Honor was mine. Yeah, and I enjoyed seeing your artistry.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
This is creative artistry.
Yeah, we're
right
trying
here.
to-
talent.
What we want to do is we want to document the lives of people. And whatever they do or whatever their interests are, I find it fascinating.
Well,
And then along the way, we've met some incredible, talented people like yourself. That's a bonus for us.
Yeah.
well,
So thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much.